Welcome to my channel. DubaiMix. Be inspired. Be an inspiration. 15 incredible places almost out of reach by tourists. With pandemic easing out and traveling is being restored, tourism could get a new boom soon. But because of the outpouring of travel photos into social media platforms, you somehow feel weary that going somewhere without the huge crowd is impossible. But there are many tourist destinations that has limited or controlled number of guests. Here are 15 amazing places that only a few of people get to visit. Number 1, Hang Son Doong Caves, Vietnam. If 2 or 3 years waiting for a slot is required, would you still go? Currently only one operator, Oxalis, operate trips to Hang Son Doong Caves and visitors are strictly limited to 500 annually. Those who are first in the waiting list and able to get in, might feel being inside a strange world. Though Vietnam is blessed with many caves, this million-year-old Hang Son Doong is one of a kind. Located at the highest peak of Phan Nha Ke Bang National Park, the caves could fit a 40-story skyscraper and at its full diameter, a 747 could pass through, easily. Because this cave system is massive, it created its own weather system and inside you will witness the biggest stalagmites in the world, about 80 meters high, plus, a variety of jungle flora growing in the interior, an underground river and most strange of all is the tennis ball-sized cave pearls, which are actually calcium deposits, scattered across the cave floor. Number 2, Monte Cristo, Italy. Nicknamed by Italians as the island that doesn't exist, Monte Cristo's nickname denotes just how few tourists have visited the island. In fact, until 2008 Monte Cristo was totally off-limits to tourists. But the island accepts visitors twice per year, between April 1st to 15 and August 31st or October 31st. Through this short time frame, only 1,000 people are allowed to go. Mostly, permits are reserved for students and educational tours, while group tours of 40 people or up get priority over solo travelers. You might be wondering why people are keen on visiting this tiny island 40 miles off the coast of Italy. It's because of a mentioned treasure. Monte Cristo, which is diamond-shaped, became popular when mentioned as the site of hidden treasure in Alexander Dumas' novel The Count of Monte Cristo. This may be a myth, but visitors today will find a different treasure, a rich history of Turk and Greek to Catholic and Roman influence and a fiercely protected environment home to a number of endangered species. Number 3, Clavel Tower, UK. If you are a traveler, you know too well about oversubscribed properties. You will also know that spectacular and often quirky historic buildings are unsurprisingly popular with people wanting to book a self-catering staycation with a twist. But even among such a well-curated collection of properties, Clavel Tower is something else. With a 19-month waiting list, this place is a hot contender for the UK's most in-demand holiday home. Prepare to create some rather serious forward planning and a stay here could be yours. Besides, you will be happy to know that it's kind of affordable too. You might be asking why? Well, first, Clavel Tower has an intriguing past. Built in 1830s as a folly by Reverend John Richards, the property later became a Coast Guard lookout and then an observatory. But it's more than just history here. The 4-story tower is strikingly situated overlooking the sea at Kimmeridge Bay in Dorset. In fact, it's right on this beautiful stretch of coastline, and who can refuse the idea of sleeping in their own tower? Number 4, Guraltas Cave Churches, Ethiopia. A journey to Guraltas Cave Churches isn't an undertaking for the faint-hearted. These 30-odd churches are incredibly remote, snuggled away in northern Ethiopia and carved into soaring sandstone cliffs which rise up to 2,580 meters above the dusty plains. Getting there requires hiking through slot canyons, free climbing almost sheer rock walls and shuffling along cliff edges, all without a support rope in sight. It's a strenuous climb and at times terrifying, but visiting these churches is a unique and high adrenaline experience. Dating back over 1,000 years ago, even older than Ethiopia's famous Lalibela, the churches were carved away at such an incredible height as protection from raids and a way of bringing worshippers closer to heaven. While this church's location is astounding, graced with panoramic views of the surrounding mountains and scorched earth below, their interiors are also magnificent. Inside are walls and pillars awash with frescoes, like the exquisitely decorated Abuna Yemeniga. Number 5, Bird Island, Belize. Ever dreamed of an isolated island experience? Well, you can now book your very own private island on Airbnb. Set off the coast of Belize, Bird Island and ticks all the Robinson Crusoe boxes, a little slice of paradise surrounded by limpid turquoise waters without anyone else in sight. The owner drops guests to the island, currently accepting up to 6 people, and the self-sufficiency starts there. Bird Island does have drinking water and electricity, powered by solar and wind. but with no other inhabitants there, guests need to bring everything else they might need with them. But self-survival is an all-out appeal here and part of a package deal that is a pretty small price to pay for undisturbed peace plus nature and being surrounded by coral reefs that you can explore anytime you want. But there is a catch: booking your stay. The last time we checked, Bird Island is fully booked up to 2020 and pandemic happened. Booking cancellations sometimes happen, but very rare. Number 6. Mount Fuji's summit, Japan. There is a famous Japanese proverb that says a wise man climbs Fuji once. A fool climbs it twice, but if your timing is wrong, well, you won't be climbing it at all. Officially, climbing season is restricted to a slim part of the year, from 1st July to 31st August, a time frame that doesn't allow visitors to witness Japan's loveliest cherry blossoms in full bloom during spring season or autumn's golden hues. Outside the climbing season, the hike is only suitable for the most experienced or licensed climbers, where almost all facilities are closed and the conditions are at their most risky. The climb up to Mount Fuji's summit is not like a walk in the park. The 6-hour climber from the 5th station, requiring a 5-hour hike to reach in itself, taking place at dawn when temperatures drop below freezing point and sudden storms near the summit aren't as rare as you might think, but the hard trek is certainly worth it. Very few experiences in Japan can compete with the thrill of standing on the country's iconic mountain peak, gazing across the landscape as a new day rolls in. Number 7. Aldabra Island, Seychelles. To the outside world, Seychelles is paradise, but for the remote outer islands group, paradise is not an enough word to describe this archipelago, the most remote of which is the much virgin Aldabra Island, situated more than 100 kilometers from Maé. Both a UNESCO World Heritage Site and nature reserve, the island's environmental value is so heavy that David Attenborough described it as one of the world's greatest natural treasures, and scientists consider it as basis for what Earth once looked like. A massive 6 tons of marine biomass per hectare encircle the island, thousands of wild migratory birds flock there, and it's the only place on Earth where reptiles, represented by over 150,000 giant tortoises, still dominate the ecosystem. Visits are restricted to scientists and volunteers, as there's no boat or air service, a few wealthy visitors who can afford a private yacht or chartered private flights. All visits must be approved by the Seychelles Islands Foundation, and even then sometimes the island is off limits due to the area's fluctuating piracy risk. Number 8. Action Tunical Muknal, Belize. Secured in a secluded location in northern foothills of the Maya Mountains, one of the most intriguing sites in Belize lay completely undiscovered until 1989. The 3-mile-long Action Tunical Muknal cave system is more than just a series of rock-hewn formations. This is the site of Mayan remains dating back more than 1,000 years, with bones and fragments that are thought to date between 250 and 909 AD, referred to by locals as the place of fear. This was once believed to be the site of ritual human sacrifice. If the remains in the caves make you feel uneasy, you will feel much discomfort from the track you need to take to reach the site. Shut off for centuries, the caves have only been accessible to visitors, on official tours, for the past 10 years or so, and the way up there is much challenging to say the least. The excursion is kicked off by a strenuous hike through humid rainforest, followed by a swim across a potentially crocodile-infested river, and finally ends with a descent into the cavernous mouth of the cave system. Number 9. Frogmore House, UK. A remarkable year for Frogmore House when selected as the official location for Harry and Meghan's engagement interview, which later became the couple's wedding reception, marking 2018 as another glimmer of limelight added to the property's illustrious history. Built in the 17th century, Frogmore House became a royal residence when George III bought it for his wife Queen Charlotte in 1792. In fact, much of the striking 35-acre gardens nod to this time, thanks to Queen Charlotte, who sculptured them with lakes, bridges and glades. In the centuries following, after its purchase, successive members of the royal family have left their mark on the house and gardens. Queen Victoria's tea house, the 18th-century lake, the white marble Indian kiosk, and the expensive pieces of artworks on display. At present, it is not a permanent royal residence, and access to Frogmore House is highly restricted to individual visitors on 3 charity open days in June each year. Groups might have a bit more luck, as pre-booked groups of over 15 people can gain access during August. Number 10. Titanic Wreck Site. Considered as the best and finest of luxury travel when it launched in 1912, now a handful of wealthy people are being offered a once-in-a-lifetime chance to visit the Titanic. Experience company OceanGate has launched the first manned exploration of Titanic Wreck Site, with June 2019 marking the beginning of its 6-week expedition. The price tag is high, quite enormous to say the least, and this certainly isn't a luxury vacation. It's an official scientific mission where each week, 9 guests will be accepted as mission specialists and actively aid the research crew. And the researchers' mission is to laser scan the wreck site to assess the rate of the ship's decay and to capture the first ever 4K images of the site, which may lead to opening the door to creating a virtual reality experience of the wreck. During the expeditions, the site will be visited in a purpose-built submersible that plunges more than 2 miles below the surface of the Atlantic. The mission is set to run annually after the 2019 trip, however, given the rate of decay of the wreck, these voyages could soon become some of the last opportunities to visit the Titanic. Number 11 Northeast Greenland National Park and Kortormit. Travelers seeking a piece of wilderness have been choosing Greenland because of its wild sanctuary found in Northeast Greenland National Park, the largest protected area in the world. It's generally empty of human existence, populated instead by musk oxen, orcas, humpback whales and polar bears. Aside from a handful of scientists that visit each summer, only the sealers and whalers from the village of Kortormit are allowed access. For all of us, who wants to experience to view the park is from the deck of a rarely visiting ship. Slightly more accessible is Kortormit, a village settled between the park and the world's longest fjord system. This remote settlement, which is a scattering of colorful houses of a population of 450 only, making it a breathtaking sight. Getting there isn't easy. Boats can only reach the village in July and August, while the rest of the year the frozen sea limits travel to dog sled, skis or snowmobile. Number 12 Tsingy de Bimaraha, Madagascar. Locally, Tsingy translates as the place where one cannot walk, indicating just how inaccessible this place can be. In fact, Tsingy de Bimaraha is Madagascar's most extensive plateau of limestone karst pinnacles and one of the hardest to reach UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the world. The area was pretty much inaccessible until the 1990s, when an organization began installing a series of suspension bridges, ladders and steel cables to navigate the thorny pinnacles. Exploring the park may have become a little bit easier, but getting there remains a challenge. Located on Madagascar's far-flung west coast, the 10 or so hour dirt road drive involves crossing 2 major crocodile-infested rivers, while during the 6 months rainy season, the road becomes an impassable quagmire. But the journey's worth it. For the chance to climb the serrated needles of rock, explore the geological maze of erosions and gaze down across the jagged limestone forest. Number 13 Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is another place that opened its doors to tourism lately. From the modern glitz of Riyadh and world-class Red Sea diving sites, to the ancient mud brick ruins of Diriyah and the desert-scattered rock tombs of Madain Saleh, Saudi Arabia is undoubtedly one of the world's most fascinating countries to visit. But until recently, it was very strict with tourists and issuing visas, including a strict policy that limited foreign travel to only those entering the country for work, business, or on pilgrimage. Number 14. Space. Of all the hard-to-reach and rarely visited places in the world, from the murky depths of the ocean floor to ice-sculpted mountain peaks, there is one final frontier that remains elusive and is the farthest reach for most travelers: space. No matter how many science fiction films you watch, the world beyond Earth still remains the most mysterious and very less traveled, of all places. Well, that's until 2020 maybe, since there are plans for the first civilian trip into space, set to commence with aerospace companies like Blue Origin, SpaceX and Virgin Galactic, all competing for first place in commercial space exploration. Be warned, being one or the first civilian in space comes with a huge price tag. Over 300 have already reserved their seats for Virgin Galactic's inaugural flight, at the cost of $200,000 per seat. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's SpaceX is set to launch its first commercial flight in 2023, a private trip to orbit the moon which has been paid for by Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa, who will be accompanied by an elite guest list of 8 artists who he's invited to capture the experience. Number 15. Tiger's Nest. Bhutan. If you've seen a photo of Bhutan's tiger's nest, then no doubt the image has remained firmly etched in your mind. If you haven't, then picture this: the world's most breathtaking Buddhist monastery, glinting in gold, ochre and white, seemingly floating 900 meters above the Paro Valley floor as it clings to a craggy Himalayan cliff. For many, this description is the closest they will get. The journey there is a hard one, across rickety bridges and through narrow passages, as you complete the steep, 3,000 feet mountain climb to reach the lofty monastery. But first, you need to get to Bhutan. Almost all nationalities require a visa, must book their trip with a Bhutanese travel operator and must pay for a pricey all-inclusive package in advance. But it's worth it. Bhutan is no ordinary place. The last great Himalayan kingdom offers more than the majestic tiger's nest. It's home to fascinating architecture, spectacular festivals and a pristine environment of snow-dusted peaks and forest-cloaked mountains that are fiercely protected by law.